So this was brought up to me from a previous student of mine. They were asking a question about how would I do a dotted line animation? How could I create a stroke that has a dotted line to it? And there's a few different ways you could go about it. You could use some different effects in After Effects to create this using like the echo or whatever else, but I find that's very difficult. Or you could create the actual design in Illustrator, bring it in, and maybe use a trim paths on a shape layer to kind of mat it in. Otherwise, I think that this is the much simpler way to do it. This quick tutorial is not going to be for people who are super basic with After Effects. They already know how to move around with shape layers, and they'll understand what I'm doing as they see this. So I'm going to do a series of these quick tips, but they're meant to be just kind of like one-offs where people could just hop right in, and they already have a good working knowledge of After Effects. So this is kind of the output of what we're getting here. It's just a random path. I'm going to create a new composition so that we can start this from scratch. So I create a new composition. I'll call this one dotted line V2. And then I'm simply going to go up to, with nothing in here, there's nothing selected, there's nothing in your layers. I'm just going to go up to the pen tool, which is going to create a shape layer. It's going to create a shape layer stroke. I'm going to zoom out a little bit so you can see this. I could just hold shift and get a straight line here with that path. Here's another little quick tip inside this quick tip, but if you were to hold Option or Alt and go up to where your shape layers are actually sitting, if you click on these, this is going to cycle through the options that shape layers actually have available. So you could have your stroke, you can change the pixels on this to get it thicker, thinner, whichever. If you had a fill on here, if you hold Option, it's going to go right to a color. You're not going to see it because we just have a straight line, but if I was to take this, if I was going to take that path and actually move it around a little bit, you'll see that that fill, well, I'm going to have to do it with like a Bezier handle, but that fill is actually going to create a shape inside of it. So you can see that there's sort of a shape that's being built that. So just be careful when you are working with shape layers, if all you want is strokes, to make sure that that fill is turned off. I'm just going to undo that. I'm going to make sure that this is turned off. We could easily do this by clicking up here, going to the no fill. But just if you want to make things faster, just hold Option or Alt and click through this and it'll cycle through it. Okay, so the thing that we want to look at in here is we want to look at our stroke. So the stroke itself, if we were to give it some dashes, we just hit plus on the dashes and it's going to give us some dashes, and if I zoom in here you'll see that they're always square. And this is very useful if this is the kind of look you're going for, but the question that I had was, how would you make this into circles? So the way that I do it is I go into here where it says line cap, and I go where it says butt cap, I'm going to make it a round. So that cap is already round, and you can see here if we were to change the dash size, it's going to start turning them into like pills. This could be very, very useful as well. But if you want to get that circle, you need to add another dash. And so that gap is going to have a 0 to it. Sorry, the gap is going to have a lot more to it. Depending on what your dash size is going to be, that's going to get your circles. So if you bring the dash size to 0, you can play with this here in the gap, and that's going to get you the circles that you want. And all you have to do is play with your stroke width to get them super tiny. Let's just play with that gap again to bring this up. I'll zoom in even more so you can see what I'm working with. But that's the basics of getting your dotted lines. So you're just going to mainly play with the dash and the gap. So the dash is going to be a 0, and the gap is going to be however long you need it. So if you needed dots that are going to sort of stream out like this, let me just see if I can hide this for you so I can hide the path. But if you wanted really nice little detailed dots, you would just push your gap up quite a bit. And if you wanted that to be a little bit thicker for the circles, you just bring your stroke up. So I really hope that was helpful. Like I said, it's a quick tip. I go through these different things that just in my regular day-to-day work, that these little options, these little things come up, these little problems that need to be solved come up, and instead of just kind of hack and slashing it and trying to work the hardest way possible, it'd be nice to find the most efficient way, because you can change this at any moment now, because you do have a path on this. Just to go back to here, you do have a path on this, and you can change that path, the direction of that path, anywhere you like, just by highlighting that. You know, if you wanted to have things on diagonal or whatever. I'm getting too detailed with it, but it's just meant to be a quick tip. Okay, I'm going to do a series of these through this YouTube channel, so it might be quick and really simple things, but I think people will be able to get some use out of this. So I hope you enjoyed it, and yeah, that's how you make a circle or a dotted line.